Great Grandmaster Gary Forbach. Hello. It's really a pleasure to have you here and an honor. You are a legend in the martial arts. You've trained with the greatest. And I want to ask you actually about the beginnings of your career, the beginnings of KAJUKENBO. How and when did you get into KAJUKENBO?
I was born and raised in Arizona on a cotton farm. And I was a minority it's by the Mexican border. And I was very small, and after school, a lot of times some of the Mexican kids would pick on me like three at a time, and I'd have to run, and I was a slow runner, so they would catch me. And this happened when I was like in the 8th grade, maybe, let's say, middle school. And so I always wanted to learn something, boxing or on the farm I knew how to shoot guns, but that's another thing. I wanted to learn to protect myself and be able to protect myself from these bullies,
Yeah.
And so about that time there was the Green Hornet. Bruce Lee came out.
Yeah.
Black and white, and to see him move like he moved, I was fascinated. I was in awe, and I'm like, I want to learn that. I don't know what it is, but I want to learn it. So anyway, when I was 15, my father, he was older when I was born, so he was sick from the cotton fibers and his work, and he had an open heart surgery, one of the first one at UCLA Hospital, where they cut him from here to here, and he had to stay in the hospital for at least 6 months. So my parents wanted me to go live with my sister in Northern California, a place called Vacaville.
Yeah.
So I went up there and I got into wrestling and I did all of that. And I was in my sister's apartment one day at the sink, and I looked in the backyard. It was a duplex, and there was a young man in this white uniform with a white belt, and he was throwing kicks at the tree. And I was like, what the heck is that? And so I went back and I asked him, and he said, oh, I take karate down at the Boys and Girls Club at Andrews Park in Vacaville. It was an old Quonset hut, old building. So he said, the teacher welcomes anybody to come and watch a class. So he said, I have a class tonight. So I asked my sister permission. I went with him. And when I walked into the building, you walk in and there was 2 doors.
Yeah.
To the right was boxing, and to the left was martial arts.
Yes.
So I was looking at the boxing because I was more familiar with that. From watching my father and I watched all the old champions fight, back in the 50s, early 50s, and so, but I happened to look over and there was a guy, a young guy about my age, boxing with a little bigger guy.
Yes.
And the guy came in and the other guy knocked him out right there, just like that, boom. So right there, instantly, I just turned and decided to go into the martial arts school.
Now, a question I want to ask you is...
Let me finish that.
Okay.
I decided to go into the martial arts school, and I went in, and I wanted to say that this man, I had never met a man like this before. I didn't know anything about Hawaii. I knew it was an island. I didn't know how many or anything. But this man welcomed me. He welcomed me. Hello, how are you? And asked my name. And then he said, I said, I'm just here. I'd like to learn to protect myself. He said, well, we'll see if we can help you. And he welcomed me into the class. So that's how I got started with KAJUKENBO.
How long have you been training in the martial arts? Roughly.
Well, it's 2025. I began in 1966. So next year, I become 75 years old, and I'll have 60 years solid in KAJUKENBO. No breaks. Only maybe a few breaks if I'm working out of town or something like that. But my blood, my passion is KAJUKENBO to this day.
So who were your first instructors, and how did they influence you?
The man I told you I met was my first and only instructor. Great Grandmaster Alejo Reyes, who was he was in Hawaii, Palama, Sijo Imperado's personal secretary, and one of the original pioneers that brought KAJUKENBO to the States, to the mainland.
Yeah.
and I'm blessed.
What fascinated you about KAJUKENBO and, I mean, compared to other styles?
Well, at the time, I had never seen any other styles. I was young still, and I
Yeah.
just trained in that school. At that time, I didn't go to any competitions. I didn't go like later when I went back. I just I just knew what I was learning, and I was trying to be like a sponge and learn everything
Yeah.
I could because I had to go back home to Arizona, and I knew those guys were going to pick on me again, and I wanted to learn how to protect myself.
So we are here in a very beautiful place called Hamburg, Germany, and it's even for myself a very inspiring experience. I was going to ask you, how was your trip to Germany?
This was my second trip to Germany.
Yeah,
My first trip was 35 years ago, and it was my first trip to Europe,
yeah,
and I was fascinated. It was a new culture, new experience. I knew Sifuao, and I had met Christian. We became friends first
yeah.
because we met at the internationals and the Long Beach Ed Parker's Long Beach Internationals, and we became friends because he knew I was KAJUKENBO. So every time he came, we bonded. And then I came here, and I thought it was beautiful. I mean, my blood is German. My my name is Forbach,
Yeah.
Forbach, and I know that. Well, I'm researching now. We have a village in the south in the Black Forest called Forbach Village.
Yeah. Now, what is the difference you noticed here in comparison to America when it comes to martial arts schools?
Oh, the martial arts schools. The only martial arts school I know here is the One Hapkido schools, and how much it's grown and expanded since I was here the first time. I had never seen any other, and now I know through my experience over the last 35 years since I've been here, there's many martial arts. You got karate, now you got kickboxing, jiu-jitsu, you got all of that other stuff. But once you taste KAJUKENBO, it's a bit of an addiction
Yeah.
because there's a little bit of all of that in this because it is the first mixed martial arts ever.
So, what do you think of the black belt exams?
Fantastic.
Yeah.
The best I've ever seen. Last time I came here, I almost tried to stop the test because I was like, somebody's going to die. And then they said, sit down. And I was so impressed because of the reality, because most people think Kung Fu is just this and that.
Yeah.
But Sifu Al because he started in Kimpo Karate under Sid Asuncion. He learned in the same school and with my teacher, Alejo Reyes in Hawaii. So it all started with Kimpo Karate. And that's that's a KEN in KAJUKENBO. And so, they're fantastic, and they're organized and together. It's a family, an ohana. Yeah.
So, could you tell us since when you know Grandmaster Elder Cascos?
Oh, I met Sifu Al. Maybe in the late '60s, going with my teacher to the Bay Area and watching him and Malia compete.
Yeah.
The king and queen of forms, and he beat everybody. And then there was his student Eric Lee,
Yeah.
who had a major influence on me. Later when I moved down to Southern California.
Is there a story you want to share with us about Grandmaster Elder Cascos that we don't know yet?
Well, yeah, he, as you know, the history of One Hapkido, he was over here, let's see, 74, I believe, until 84. But in 1974, I tested for black belt. I had trained 8 years with Alejo Reyes in KAJUKENBO Kimpo Karate hard style.
Yeah.
And I passed my test. I took a beating, and passed the test. And I was a boilermaker. I did steel construction. And so my job sent me down to San Clemente to build a nuclear plant. So I went down there and I asked my teacher permission. Would it be okay if I opened a school and start teaching under your affiliate of Reyes Kempo Karate in Suisun, California, and my teacher was very kind and open. He had, yes, go ahead. I'd love it. It would make me feel good if you were. He was just that kind of guy. He wasn't like, oh, you got to send me money every month. He never, no mention of nothing, because he knew it's hard to start a school and start and have to give somebody else money. So I went to San Clemente. I opened the school. San Clemente is one of the most famous surfing towns in California.
Yeah.
Many pro surfers come, and many pro surfers trained in KAJUKENBO. Many of the famous families, the Fletchers, Christian Fletcher, Herbie Fletcher, Nathan Fletcher, they trained in my school. The boys trained in my school, and then I was teaching his wife and Herbie a bit too. But I had all of these the healthy culture down there, and then my school grew. And when Sifu Al and Malia were coming back to the States from Germany, I knew they were flying into LA.
Yeah.
And that's like only an hour away from my school. So I contacted him because I had met him, and I said, while you're here, can I pick, because I picked him up at the airport, and they came down to San Clemente and stayed and did a seminar introducing us to his one hapkindo into ours, and that kind of inspired us too, because we like I love the kung fu of Eric Lee.
Yeah.
And then we had Malia and Al at my school, and it was a great honor, and it was a great seminar, and it was just that's my first memory of spending time with him, getting to know him, watching him, trying to emulate him, and through my training, the addition of his, because he had already gone through the Kempo Karate training, and he had taken it to another level.
Yes.
And I was ready to step to another level in my mind.
So how would you describe the philosophy of KAJUKENBO?
There's not a lot of real mystique about it.
Yeah.
You get you learn to protect your life. It's straight up self-defense. It's a self-defense art. It's not like there's no big philosophies or anything in it. Other than, we became family Ohana, and I was able to experience some of the other schools, but Sifu always impressed me at that time.
So what's the core of true martial arts training for you?
For me,
For you?
aloha.
Yeah.
I mean, because, and that might sound funny to some people, but I've learned how to punch, kick, fight, scratch, bite, poke eyes, grab the olos, all that kind of stuff. But my teacher showed me love.
Yeah.
I didn't know anything about Hawaii or anything about the culture. I was learning this stuff, and then I began training at the main school in Suisun Self-Defense Institute. That was his home school. He just came and taught at a rec center, extra teaching. And then he asked me, I'd like you to come to the other school and start training. So I trained in Vacaville once a week, and I trained in Suisun once or twice a week after that, because that's where the real training was. That's where the beatings began.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, we all know as we are young, we'll do crazy things, and you've been a fighter, you had some rough years behind you. But how did the training change for you over the years?
For me, and what I learned from my teacher, I teach exactly the basic techniques, the grab arts, the punch counters. I didn't add anything. I kept it the way it was, because my teacher, after I really discovered, now there's a lot of different methods, which is fine. People can do what they want. The Gaylord method, Ramos method, they all have their method. And so when I was questioned about my teacher, somebody said the Reyes method, and I was told there is no Reyes method.
Yeah.
It's the Imperato method.
Yeah.
He was that kind of guy that wanted to be the historian and protector of Shijo's art that he created. He was his secretary treasurer. He had all the notes of the original training. Other guys went to San Francisco, they saw Kung Fu and all these things, and we want to put a little bit of this here, and then they'd abandon some of the KAJUKENBO, in my opinion, and I always felt, no matter what you want to learn, you should, from white to black belt, you should master KAJUKENBO. I'm not talking about the techniques, but your foundation is like the alphabets, A through Z.
Yeah.
Just because I don't like how the letter R or Z or that, I don't take it out because it's partial.
Yeah.
So I have made sure that all of my black belts and all the black belts I've trained, which is, if you look at a lot of the family tree, some guys have hundreds and hundreds of black belts. I have 37. And those 37 I taught from white to black. And then I told them, go, I sent them, some went to Danny Inosanto, because I knew him. So I'd say, I like the Eskrima, go. Yeah, I like Kung Fu, go. Because they had the foundation. I didn't let them go away missing parts.
Yeah.
And that's what I wanted in my school, because a lot of guys are like, yeah, but you got to modernize it and everything. No, you do, not me. I want to preserve my teacher's teaching, and then I share that with you, and then you take it, do what you want with it.
All right. Well, Gary, all of us go through up and downs in life, and it's not easy to always stay positive. How do you manage to stay so motivated during the years of training?
Well, it's a long journey.
Yeah.
And I've seen many things in the growth of KAJUKENBO. You got One Hop Kendo now. A lot of the pioneers came over, created their own method that they wanted to do. I stayed with the Imperato method, the original Imperato method, until I teach all of my black belts that. But I also became hungry for Kung Fu when I saw Eric Lee and met Shifu Ao and Malia. And I wanted to learn all of the beautiful movements that they did and everything. So I called my instructor. I asked his permission. Can I learn? And he said, of course. That's how my teacher was. He never said, no, you can't go here and there. But I saw a lot of other teachers that were like that. So I was very lucky. I was very blessed that my teacher would allow me to go learn, because when I moved to San Clemente, I wanted to learn Sifu Eric's double swords. That was for me.
Yeah.
And then we used to drive. I taught 4 days a week in San Clemente, and then every Sunday, my wife and two of my younger girl students who wanted to learn the Kung Fu forms, we would drive up to LA Chinatown to train with Sifu Eric at Sifu Johnny So's Chinatown school, which was very famous. So it was an honor to be there just to train. And Sifu Eric, you know how many, like some of the Chinese, they didn't want to teach other culture or white people. I'll just say it. And not Sifu Eric. He was open as a book. And he was willing to help us. He let us videotape the forms. And when we went there, he didn't just teach us all the same form. He taught me the swords first. He was teaching my wife Shilam 6. Mm-hmm. He was teaching my next student down Limpo. Yeah. And he was teaching the youngest floating leaf, or Fao Yup. Yeah. And so then he said to me, which taught me something about openness, you can take this all back to your school and share it with each other. And I had never been around teachers like that. My teacher was open like that, but I saw other guys, and I just felt blessed. I think God had a plan for me, and he put me on a road to where I am now here in Hamburg for the second time. Yeah. And I feel blessed. Yeah. So.
Yeah. Well, life is a blessing.
Yes.
And so there are, I'm sure, a lot of ceremonies in many different martial arts, but what ceremonies do exist in KAJUKENBO? Can you share a little bit?
Well, I mean, ceremonies, we have our, usually, every 6 months to a year, someone's getting promoted. That's the ceremony we had.
Yeah.
And then other than that, it was getting together at tournaments and those things. I'm not sure what you is like. We didn't sit down for tea every day
Yeah.
or anything like that. We were learning how to protect our lives. It was for real. It wasn't like everything I learned we were able to use on the street. And that's what I was interested in is self-defense.
Yeah.
Just self-defense. And then along the way, like I said, I got to train with Sifu Eric. So I look at KAJUKENBO for me as the main course.
Yeah.
I am KAJUKENBO. My teacher was Alejo Reyes. Sijo lived with me after my teacher died at different times, maybe one day, 2 weeks,
Yeah.
2 months, 6 months. Over the years, probably been at several years. Over all the years, Sijo used to come and stay with us, which was an honor. And now people say, "Oh, you train with Sijo Emperado." No,
Yeah.
I train with Alejo Reyes. I am what I am because of my first teacher, who was a student of Sijo Emperado. And then when he died, my teacher died at age 50, which I didn't realize at that time because I was only like 26.
Yeah.
That until now, I'm going to be 75. That I feel like I was robbed of 20 years. He died at 50. I feel like I was robbed of 20 years.
Yeah.
But luckily, I had Sijo come in and swoop me up under his wing. And it wasn't true. I guess, yeah, I have. Of course I have. But I don't go around bragging like a lot of guys now today. And they know who they are. They know who they are, right? And so they claim, I train with Sijo Emperado. Well, you're 40 or 30 years old.
Yeah.
And I would say, if you're not at least 65 or 70, you would never have had the opportunity to train with him in Hawaii. Never. Because he stopped. He wasn't like teaching, but he would visit a school. He would visit your school. People say, "Sijo, come to my school." They would take pictures and all of that. And then the problem now is many people put pictures up on their wall and say, "I train with him."
Yeah.
It's not true, but whatever. Like Sijo, not whatever, but Sijo would say whatever. You want to say that you did this and that, go ahead. I know the truth. And they know that I know the truth. So why lie about it? Did Sijo help me and make corrections on what I did? Yeah, because when he came to San Clemente, to my school, I taught in a garage. And I coined the term KAJUKENBO.
Yeah.
And he would come, live in my house. He would cook. He would do the dishes. He was a very humble man. A lot of people think he would be like Kwai Chang Kane or whatever, Miyagi. No, he was Sijo. And he would, I had a recliner and it became his recliner. And so when we had class, he would sit in the recliner and watch my kids. And he would, "Hey, like, we had some kids. I had one boy, Leo Juarez, and I'll never forget. Like, he had a pompadour. He'd have a pompadour, and he'd be training and doing things. And then he'd like fix his hair. He'd go, "Hey, Bada, never mind your hair.
Yeah.
Pay attention. Protect your life.
Yeah.
You have to focus." His point, and what I think now is people want to learn so much, and I think people think more is better. But in my teaching, I think less is more.
Yeah.
I mean, when I was younger, I thought I want to impress these. I'm talking about when I was like 5th degree or something like that. I would go to a school. They want me to teach a seminar. I don't ever feel like I show off, but I wanted to show my knowledge. So I would teach all these techniques and realize finally, years later, they never took anything away from the seminar because I taught them too much.
Yeah.
Now, like even here, I teach 1, 2, 3 things because I want to implant that into them, these students. Even at one seminar, I worked on one technique, which was Sijo's, at the time they call them Sijo's advanced alphabets. They're not advanced. All KAJUKENBO's techniques are advanced. There's no such thing as advanced KAJUKENBO.
So that leads us to the next question. We just start talking about it, the circle of influence, and what is the most important for you when you teach your students?
Oh, that I teach them the reality of training for the street.
Yeah.
It's not for your belt. A belt holds up your pants. You know, um, if I walk from my car to my house,
Yeah.
I need to have to be able to protect myself. If I have too much fancy stuff, a lot of stuff, I just want to. My philosophy is I teach a 3-step
Yeah.
method. There was a sign in my teacher's school that said par, stun, put away. That's 3 movements. So you block. Par means block. Stun. I want to take, as this guy's attacking me, I want to take his mind off of me and put it on pain. So when I hit his muscle, I don't just block. I don't call it. I attack. Everything I do is an attack on your body. I want to take. If I hit you here, your mind. I want your mind here because then I put you away.
Yeah.
So it's a simple technique. It doesn't always work out like that, but more is less. Less is more.
Yeah.
For me.
It's not just you're doing a technique, you become that technique. You know?
Absolutely.
Entire being.
Absolutely. And as I told the kids here while I was doing that I'm a peaceful person. I tell them, sometimes I write a lot. I saw a phrase one time, walk in peace.
Yeah.
But always be aware of your surroundings. Be kind and always be kind.
Yeah.
A lot of people have a hard time smiling around the world, but I try to smile and smile. If I don't know you, I'll smile.
Yeah.
And now I learn like moin or something like that.
Yeah, like the German
Good
phrases.
morning, to try to meet people and things like that.
How would you say you motivate your students or the future generation, especially in days like these? I mean, there's a lot of internet, a lot of distractions. There's a lot of things going on around the world, and you do have a major influence on your students. But how do you see it in terms of motivating the future generation?
Well, first thing I say is be humble.
Yeah.
Be humble. It's not about you. It's about my teacher. Like I said, everybody knows Sijo. I was with Sijo Emperado all the time, and they focus on Sijo. I focus on my teacher.
Yeah.
And that's one thing Sijo always liked me for was that, he would say, you don't, we spend a lot of time together, but you don't say you train with me. You always talk about your teacher. And so I hope someday that my students will say he had love for me. He had aloha. And I'll go back to what I was talking about is now what's the greatest thing I've taken from KAJUKENBO? It's the aloha spirit, which is like connecting with other people. Aloha has a lot of meanings. I'm not Hawaiian. I'm a white boy, but I lived on Kauai for a few years.
Yeah.
And you get a feeling like you don't belong. And I there was times when you guys, even in Hawaii, when I would go compete, they would tell me, they wouldn't tell me to my face.
Yeah.
Why not? But they wouldn't tell me to my face. But someone would say, if you don't train on the islands, you don't know KAJUKENBO. That's like stupid.
Yeah.
I mean,
Yeah.
I respect the islands. When I go over there, I work and I planted cocoa palms, and I have pictures of when we had the coconut and the little sprout coming out, and then 30 years later the tree has grown. So, in other words, giving back to my students, giving back to the island, giving back to showing that I'm not just over there just to go there as a tourist or anything. Respect the aina, respect the land, respect the people. And so I try to respect everybody. I tell students the only difference between you and I is I started before you, and I never quit.
So, when you look at the students all over the world, you've been given so many workshops, seminars. I mean, you know life, you've experienced life. To you, what does it mean to be a good KAJUKENBO black belt?
Oh, well, always respect your teacher.
Yeah.
listen to your teacher, even if he has ideas you don't believe in. You know, there's a lot of things that, a lot of problems that have happened are because it, their relationship has gone outside of the art into their personal life.
Yeah.
What people do is not my business.
Yeah.
If they ask me advice, I try to give the best advice I can give. But the main thing is to respect other people, share what you know, help other people if they need help,
Absolutely.
and be kind.
Yeah.
Be kind to everyone.
Most important thing.
Yeah, most important.
I would say it's nice to be important, but more important to be nice.
Absolutely.
Yeah. So, as you have been around the blocks, many different countries, you had your up and downs. You've been through a whole lot of changes, challenges, whether it's spiritually, physically, mentally. What was the key moment that really changed or inspired your life?
Well, first of all, everyone listening to this interview,
Yeah.
everyone in this room right now, all go through the same thing.
Yeah.
We all have different ups and downs and everything. But another, like, a lot of things I learned in Hawaii were special to me, like the word imua.
Yeah.
Imua means move forward, never move backwards. Enjoy the moment. I mean, I'm, like I said, I'm almost 75. Yeah, my body is broken down. My shoulders are, I'm gonna get total replacements. I have total replacements on my knees. I get a laser treatment for my neck because of all the beatings I took on my neck all these years. I try to warn people now, don't hurt your students or look at me. This is what you get. But the most important thing is to, you know, share your knowledge, protect your students, give them the best advice you can, and, you know, be a good person.
So, would you like to share some funny moments? I mean, you have legend teachers, etc., but they weren't always serious. They weren't always so uptight. I'm sure, especially in Hawaii, there are probably stories you want to share with the rest of the world and students that probably inspire them, because obviously you're a guy with a great sense of humor, and that's what makes life even more pleasant. So, any stories you want to share?
Well, I have a lot of stories.
Yeah.
But I guess, you know, I don't know. I so many things that I've experienced and everything, but it all goes back to all the ups and downs and in betweens and all of that. Like, I come here and the like Christian and Jorn and Winfried and Dassos and Emmanuel. I don't want to miss any names. Michael. Did I get them all?
Yeah, well.
And now I've met the second generation, and now the third and fourth and fifth generation. And I'm coming over here, and I don't want them to think, oh, this guy's coming, you've got to, all that stuff.
Yeah.
You know, I want to aloha everybody.
Yeah.
It's not like aloha hi. It's like share my mana with you. I want you to feel like you know, I don't know everything about you. You don't know everything about me. Yeah. But when we meet, we should have this love for each other. Not love like that, but just love. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And don't expect too much out of other people.
There's a quick story I like to share. When I was with Grandmaster Eric Lee, and we were at a convention, and we were sitting, and I said, "Hey, Eric," and somebody stood up and said, "How dare you? Got to call him Grandmaster." And Sifu Eric just looked at everybody and says, no big deal. What, you know, a Grandmaster of all people or whatever, you know, call me whatever you like, you know. And I think, I feel like, especially with my Sifu Elder Cascos, that sense of humor, that camaraderie, that companionship,
camaraderie,
makes it so special and builds a connection.
You introduced me as great grandmaster. I'm not great anything. I'm just Gary, and I'm Sifu Gary, and I fight against guys in KAJUKENBO promoting themselves to 10th degree, because Sijo said, first of all, it was even before there were grandmasters. I remember when he said, I'm the only professor in KAJUKENBO, and I will be the only professor forever. And then it grew and grew and grew, so they had to have more rank. But now it's gone out of hand. There's guys, you know, they've trained in KAJUKENBO. There's no doubt, and they were good at the time, but they didn't stay true to Shijo.
Okay. I want to ask you, when you look around, how has the scene of the martial arts has changed in comparison to back then? When you look at what's happening now.
Promotions and self-promotions. I can't, it just doesn't compute with me how I can promote myself.
Yeah.
Or how I can ask for a promotion. You go and you work, and when you reach that level, your teacher is the one who makes the decision. If you're looking, or if you're searching for promotion, you need to go away, because you're not going to go anywhere.
Yeah.
Unless you pay a lot of money. That's a thing today.
How did Sergio Emperado envision the future of KAJUKENBO? What you say?
Sergio was a simple man, very simple man. But I would ask him, because I would see guys that promised to help him do stuff, and they would desert, or they would abandon him.
Yeah.
And he would go, it's okay.
Yeah.
You're like, stay. You're like, go. And he just wanted all of us to come be together, to be one. Kendo, whatever, all the methods, he wanted us to become one. And that's what makes my heart feel good about being here,
Yeah.
because of the Kendo. A lot of people around the world see a separation between KSDI and Kendo. There's no separation. That's why Senior Grandmaster Kenji and I are here today, or this week, because we're here to show what Sergio wanted.
Yeah.
He and I, since the beginning, have been dedicated to Sergio Emperado. Mm-hmm. I'm just a student. I've been around a long time, but I'm just a student. But the point is we want to emulate Sergio's wishes. Like, everybody come together. Even if you have a problem, or what they call in Hawaii, pilikea, a problem, you need to talk, solve it, and move forward and build and become stronger. That's
there's so many more questions that I would want to ask you, but for the end of this interview, what are you the most proud of, and what would you like to tell the students, the students that watch this interview, or anyone, to encourage with what they envision in their life when it comes to their goals, their dreams? As you had a lot of experience, and maybe you can share this.
The thing I'm most proud of are my children, my 2 daughters, Julie and Nikki, my 5 grandchildren, and now my great-granddaughter. That's my heart. They are everything to me. Then again, my students, my brothers and sisters here, and not every KAJUKENBO school, but you know, the people who are true to KAJUKENBO, and they have the aloha.
Yeah.
So and what I tell them, don't quit.
Never quit.
Don't quit. I mean, because you never reach the end of your journey.
Yeah.
It's easy to quit. It's easy to quit. I'm gonna go, no, I don't like this flavor, I like that flavor. I don't like that flavor, I like that flavor. Stick to the road, move forward, imua, and have a fantastic life.
I want to thank you personally for having this conversation. I hang out with you before.
Yes.
I heard a lot of stories, but when
don't believe it.
But you know what? Yeah, when I see you, you know, that's all that matters. That feeling, that ohana, you know, and that gratitude that you share with us. So for me, it's really a blessing, and God bless you for being around, for staying the person that you are, inspiring so many people.
Thank you.
Inspiring me.
Thank you.
And until next time.
Yes.